Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Beyond This, the podcast that talks about all those difficult conversations, growth, spirituality, the afterlife, and today we are talking about death. If this is our first time of meeting, my name is Matilda, and I am a professional psychic medium with decades of experience. I work as a medium, a psychic, and a spiritual advisor here in Australia. And today we're stepping into one of the most mysterious and somewhat tender subjects of all. What really happens when we die? It's something every one of us will face, yet most of us are taught to fear or avoid even talking about it. But I want to invite you to listen differently today. This episode isn't about endings, it's about transformation, continuation, and the truth that love is far more durable than flesh and bone. So take a deep breath. Let's walk gently into this together. As with all of my episodes, I will have my predictions at the end of the episode. It's been a weird week with energy. If you are a metaphysical worker, if you are of service, you will have felt it. The collective energy almost feels like they're holding their breath, waiting for something to happen. Sadly, many of us know that something's about to happen, but we can't quite put our finger on it. So if you are one of those that is struggling with the overwhelm, the overstimulation that is out there, and I'm human too, I have struggled with it, especially in the last 2 weeks, then I urge you to look at what self-care means to you and do that. For me, I spent a number of hours last week I did a lot of meditation, but I also just lay and I listened to an audiobook. I didn't even listen to the words. It was the comfort of the voice that really helped me tune out and to ground myself. You are not alone at this moment in time. And I hope that you all find something that is self-care focused to concentrate on and look after yourselves. But it has been dicey. I am not going to lie with that. But today, and I choose a difficult topic for this week. I hope that all of my topics make you think, make you examine, help you deconstruct from some of the things that you have been taught in years gone by. I will never force what I know or my opinion on others. I am simply the vessel to pass that on so that you have the opportunity to think a little bit differently, to learn something new and decide if that belief system is for you. It is so important that we are all learning to be critical thinkers. I learn something new from my children every single day because I see it through their eyes rather than those that have been around for 54 years. So always be open to new topics. Don't be closed. The second half of this episode as well, I'm going to be talking about division. Division is something that is so prevalent in this world. And the way that I want to tackle it is from a spirituality perspective. And it may not be for everyone, but I urge you to listen to that part of the episode with a really open mind and an open heart. But let's get on with this week's episode. In modern life, death is often treated as a failure, something to beat, something to postpone. And let's hope that that is the reality for many of us. But we use euphemisms: passed away, lost, gone too soon. We tiptoe around the language because it feels too final. But what if we changed the conversation? What if instead of asking, why do we die, we ask, what do we become? When I began working as a medium, or began to understand the ability as a medium that I had, I realized that death is never described by those that step forward as destruction. It is described as a release, a shedding of limitation. I've had countless sessions where a loved one in spirit says, tell them I'm free now, or tell them I am no longer suffering. Explain to them that I'm still laughing and that there is lightness and humor and such relief. And that's when I know the fear belongs to the living. The peace belongs to those that have departed. But let's talk about the actual moment of transition, as spirit shows it to me. Often, before the final breath, there's a soft separation. The consciousness begins to loosen its grip on the physical body. People who've had near-death experiences describe floating above themselves and feeling weightless, calm, and surrounded by unconditional love. Spirit mirrors that. Those that I have connected to, and though I have connected thousands and thousands of loved ones, they show me a gentle lifting, like stepping from one vibration to another. Very similar to walking from a noisy room into still air. They're met immediately by familiar energy. Loved ones, spirit guides, pets who greet them first. There's no confusement or judgment. It is recognition, reunion, and remembrance. It's, oh right, this is who I really am. I think of it like moving from the dense, pixelated world of a video game back into the real sunlight. The soul re-expands into its natural vastness. If death is graduation, then life is the curriculum. Each incarnation teaches something different. Patience, compassion, courage, humility. And we tend to evaluate our lives by achievement. But spirit sees growth in how we love, how we forgive, and how we respond to pain. From their side, the question isn't, did you succeed? It's, did you evolve? During readings, I often hear loved ones express amazement at the ripple effect of their lives. They'll say things like, I didn't realize that she forgave me, or tell him I finally understand why that had to happen. I understand why I behaved in that way. I have a better understanding. In that realm, awareness expands and the lessons crystallize. So death isn't punishment or reward. It's integration. The moment the soul steps out, it gathers every experience, emotion and intention into understanding. What about the life review? Is that real? I get asked that all the time. It's one of the most popular questions, either during a private reading or with one of my group events. And yes, but not in the cinematic way with clouds and scoreboards. It's an energetic empathy. The soul refeels its own life from every perspective it touched. When you made someone laugh, when you experienced their joy, but also when you caused pain, you feel the echo of that pain, not as punishment, but as awareness. It's pure learning through compassion. And this is where deep healing happens. Many souls choose to return, not out of obligation, but because they're eager to apply what they've learned. Reincarnation isn't recycling, it's refinement. I get shown that when we cross, we don't float away into isolation. We become part of a vibrant ecosystem of energy. Guides, teachers, ancestors, they help orientate the newly transitioned souls. It's like arriving at an airport in a new country and immediately spotting familiar faces waving to you from the crowd. Some souls join teams that assist the living, comforting and the grieving, inspiring artists, or guided healers and children. Others spend time resting, absorbing colour, sound, and vibration until they're ready for what's next. You see, the other side isn't some cloud in the sky. It's a frequency that exists right alongside ours. It is simply a different vibration. How do I know they're still around, you may ask? Well, spirit communication is subtle. They don't shout, they whisper. You might smell your grandmother's perfume out of nowhere. You might see repeating numbers, hear favourite songs right when you're thinking of them, or dream so vividly it feels more real than waking. Those are not coincidences. They're calibrations, spirit adjusting their energy to intersect with yours. And when your vibration lifts through gratitude, laughter, or simple stillness, that connection becomes clearer. That's why spiritual development always begins with presence. You can't hear whispers if your mind is screaming. Understanding that death is transition changes how we live. It dissolves the small fears that keep us from truly engaging with life. You can start saying, I love you more. You stop holding grudges. You realize every goodbye is temporary. When you know the story continues, you can live with more purpose because you're writing the next chapter your soul will read. And here's something Spirit has said to me again and again. The point of life isn't to avoid death. It's to live so fully that death can't take anything unfinished. Even with these beliefs and understanding, grief still hurts. Knowing they're still with us doesn't stop us missing their physical presence, their voice, the warmth, the rituals of daily life. I want to say this clearly. You are allowed to grieve and believe at the same time. Grief isn't a sign of doubt. It is evidence of love. Spirit never asks us not to cry. They just want us to remember that tears are temporary, that love, once created, never dissolves. Try this when you miss somebody that's close to you that you have lost. Sit quietly and say, I know you're near. Notice what you feel. Sometimes it's a warmth, sometimes it's emotion. Sometimes it is just stillness, but that connection is not imagination. Let's zoom out for a moment. If consciousness continues, then our relationships continue too, across lifetimes and realities. Soul families reincarnate together, swapping roles to different facets of love. A parent in one life might return as a child or a dear friend in another. The essence is constant, only the costumes change. That's why we often meet someone new and feel like we've known them forever. Because you have, just not here. just not in this life. In the grand pattern, every death, every reunion, every birth is part of the same eternal conversation. I feel like the death needs a makeover. It carries centuries of fear, superstition, and of finality. When spirit speaks, they rarely use it. They'll say transition, homecoming, awakening. And language matters because the words we use shape our perception. So next time you speak about someone who's passed, try saying when they transitioned or when they returned home or graduated. Notice how your heart responds differently. It softens, it recognizes the truth. And you don't need to be a medium to understand this truth. You just need openness. Start by reflecting on the moments you've already felt spirit near. The timing too perfect to explain, the intuition that made you smile, the dream that healed something in you. These moments are doorways. The more you acknowledge them, the wider they open. And living with awareness of the afterlife isn't about escaping this life. It's about deepening into it. Because when you know you are eternal, you start treating your days as sacred, not scarce. So, what if we stopped fearing death? What if we saw it as another adventure, another chance for the soul to expand, to understand, to love more deeply? Maybe the question isn't what happens when we die. How will we live knowing we never really end? Because death isn't the closing of a book, it's the turning of a page. And beyond that page is every soul we've ever loved, waiting to welcome us home. Welcome back to Beyond This, the podcast where we discuss all of those difficult conversations around life, death, spiritual growth, and living. In this week's episode, we are actually going to be talking about death and how we look at it, how we can view it, and how we can change that perspective a little. Welcome. If we have not met before, my name is Matilda, and I am a professional psychic medium and spiritual advisor based here in Australia. And I've been lucky enough to connect thousands of families with their loved ones who have transitioned and have moved on to the afterlife. I have a really good insight into what they want us to know, what they want us to understand. And I'm going to bring some of that to you today in this week's conversation. As well as that, I'm actually going to be talking about division and what we can do to play our part in navigating it, managing it, understanding it. Because division has become a problem not just in the United States, but worldwide. And I want to bring to you a different perspective on that. As always, at the end of all of my episodes, I am going to talk about some events that have happened that I've seen come in and some new information that I've been given by my guides and when I have been channeling. I also have to correct a TikTok video or the understanding of a TikTok video because it's driving me crazy the way that people are understanding it rather than listening to it. Nothing new there, you say, Matilda. I know. This week's been energetically bumpy. If I could tell you how I've been feeling in the last couple of weeks, it has been exhausting. I have been exhausted. I talked about grounding last week and how important it is. And for me, I have spent a couple of hours just laying on my bed listening to my audiobook because I have been, I'm going to say tapped out, touched out, tapped out, energetically exhausted. And for me, grounding has to be about self care. And I urge anyone out there that is feeling as if their nerves are on the outside of their body, as if something has to change or is about to change, then really look into that self care element. By the time Sunday evening came around, I had been really busy on Sunday. If you're on my Patreon, you joined me for a cooking video. I had been to the point of working, keeping my readings going, keeping my lives going, doing all the work for the Patreon, as well as having not one single day in the last 2 weeks where I haven't had a trade here, a contractor here for like literally, yeah, from 7:30 every morning they would be arriving. And they haven't even started the big work yet. And I just found that I was just exhausted. Today, I don't know why, but I wanted to talk about this, the division that seems to have settled across the world. You can see it in families, in friendships, in social media, and it is really bothering me right now. I am I've gotten angrier and angrier about it, but I've gotten really cross about the fact that a lot of people, and I'm talking about both sides, are playing into the hands of this. When we scroll, it's a heaviness. And when you scroll through comments or watch the news, the sense that people are living in completely different realities and no one's listening anymore is driving me insane. And while I'm going to talk specifically about what's happening in the United States, I do want to emphasize that this is worldwide. The United States is such a visible microcosm of this collective tension, and that's what's highlighted it to me. But it is really, this conversation applies to all of us. Because what's really happening isn't political, it's energetic, it's consciousness based. And as uncomfortable as it may be to hear this, both sides are responsible for keeping the cycle going. But the beautiful thing is that means both sides also have the power to change it. Let's zoom out for a moment. On the surface, it looks like politics left versus right, conservative versus progressive, red versus blue. But underneath, that is something older and deeper. It is fear versus fear. Fear of being unheard, fear of losing freedom, fear of being erased or misunderstood. And when fear runs unchecked, it morphs into defensiveness, anger, superiority, the illusion that if I'm right, you must be wrong. I remember during one of my readings, Spirit said something that stopped me in my tracks. The world isn't divided by politics, it's divided by perception. Two people can look at the exact same event and see two completely different realities because they're filtering it through their wounds, their upbringing, and their beliefs. That's why shouting rarely changes anything, because what we're actually defending isn't the truth, it's our identity. The human ego loves conflict. It feels powerful when it's right, righteous when it's offended, and safe when it has an enemy. But spirituality speaking, the ego thrives on separation, the soul thrives on connection. You see it everywhere. Families who can't eat together because of who someone voted for. Lifelong friends who unfollow each other over one comment. People saying, if you believe that, then I can't know you. Now, I am not here to tell anyone how to live. I am purely bringing you the spiritual perspective and what I have been made aware of. Every time we draw the lines, we make the illusion of separation stronger. And yet, if we strip it back, most people on both sides want the same thing: safety, belonging, purpose, freedom, and love. They just have different ideas on how to get there. When you remember that, something softens inside of you. You stop seeing monsters and start seeing fear dressed as conviction. A few years ago, I had a friend who was very vocal about her political beliefs, the complete opposite of mine. We'd known each other for quite a long time, but during the height of political chaos, our conversations turned into debates and then silence. And one day, out of nowhere, Spirit nudged me and said, "Ask her what she's afraid of." So instead of arguing with her, I texted her and said, "You seem really passionate about this. What's underneath it for you?" And she said, "I'm really scared for my children. I'm scared of losing the world I know. I don't know any different." And that one sentence changed everything, because suddenly it wasn't about sides, it was about a shared fear. Once I understood the emotion driving her, compassion replaced frustration. And you know what? We still disagreed on most everything, but we could hold love for each other again. And that's the power of awareness. It doesn't erase difference, it heals the emotional root beneath it. When we say they're ruining everything or people like them are the problem, we hand our power away. We make our peace conditional on other people changing, and that's spiritually disempowering. Because our energy, our vibration is always our responsibility. Think of it like this: if the collective is a giant field of water, every thought you have is a drop. When you send out judgment, you're rippling bitterness through that field. When you send out compassion, you're rippling light. We can't demand global peace while broadcasting personal war. So instead of trying to change them, we start by cleaning up our own thought energy. That's where real spiritual work begins, not in external righteousness, but in internal responsibility. Let's get metaphysical for a second. Every thought is a frequency. When enough people think similar thoughts, that frequency amplifies. It becomes the collective vibration. That's why you can feel the tension when you walk into a crowded protest, or peace when you step into a cathedral. The energy of thought lingers. So if millions of people are thinking the world is falling apart, then energetically, the world begins to reflect that fear. Not because of magic, but because consciousness creates conditions. Now imagine if millions of people started thinking we're finding our way back to each other. What kind of shift would that create? We're powerful beyond measure, but only if we use that power consciously. So how do we shift, Matilda? What's the magic wand? It begins with just one pause. The moment you feel that rush of judgment, the tightening in your chest, the need to set someone straight, that's your ego asking for control. Breathe. Ask yourself, what am I actually protecting right now? Truth or my pride? Most of the time, it's pride. Then instead of arguing, you can choose curiosity. I wonder what experience made them see the world that way. Curiosity dissolves defensiveness. It reopens the channel of compassion. And that's where transformation begins. not through argument, but through awareness. Social media, you see a post that triggers you. Your instinct is to reply with, "How can you possibly believe that?" Just think for a second. Instead, comment something like, "That's an interesting view. Can you tell me what led you there?" 9 times out of 10, the conversation will soften. I'm not saying that you are going to perform miracles. I am not saying that the bots will reply to you. I am not saying that everyone that you are trying to get through to will allow you to get through to them. I am not saying that you can expect them to soften as well. But if we start to soften, if those of us that know the truth soften, maybe we can invite some authenticity in this world. And I know many of you talking or listening to this have had that family dinner where your uncle is going to bring up politics and everyone tenses. Instead of engaging from defense, try asking what's been hardest for you about what's happening right now. And see what they answer. See what that is going to help. Even silently, when you catch yourself thinking, those people, replace it with those souls. It's impossible to hold hate for a soul. Just a spiritual way to reframe things. We want to move from division to discernment. And here's an important distinction. Awareness doesn't mean passivity, being passive. You can still hold strong values, advocate for justice, and speak truth, but you do it without hostility. That's discernment. Discernment is when your choices come from consciousness instead of conditioning. It's the difference between saying you're wrong and saying, I see that differently, and that's okay. When your energy is grounded in peace, your message carries more power because it's not contaminated by fear. That's how spiritual leaders, change makers, and healers operate. Spirit will often show me the world as a grid of light, every human connected by threads of energy. And when one of us chooses awareness, a section of that grid brightens up. And when enough of us hold that light, darkness, ignorance has nowhere to anchor. This is collective growth. It's not about everyone agreeing. It's about everyone awakening. The United States in particular is in a powerful karmic and systemic change. It's confronting its shadow of polarities so that it can evolve into greater unity. It's going to be messy because the energy is being purged, but healing always looks chaotic before it looks peaceful. So when you see chaos, don't lose hope. Recognize the process. We're not breaking down. It's about breaking open. Here are some simple ways to begin shifting your energy away from divisiveness. Catch and reframe. When you think they're the problem, reframe it. We are in pain. Meditate on oneness. Picture the people you disagree with surrounded by the same white light that you ask for yourself. And practice energetic hygiene. Limit exposure to outrage media. Not because ignorance is bliss, but because constant reactivity lowers your vibration. Speak with intention before posting, commenting, or debating. Ask, will this add light or noise? These are small shifts, but collectively, they change the field. Conscious unity, maybe the real revolution isn't political, maybe it's spiritual. It's a revolution of awareness over reaction. Imagine a world where instead of arguing, we listened, where we recognized that they are just us with a different story, where we realize that unity doesn't mean sameness. It means remembering that every perspective is part of one consciousness, exploring itself. If you take nothing else from today, take this. You are not powerless in a divided world. You are an amplifier of energy, and you get to choose the frequency. Choose wisely. Choose love, awareness, and peace, not as concepts, but as daily disciplines. Because when enough of us choose that, even quietly, the collective soul. I hope you have taken that message with the love that it is meant. I am not criticizing anyone. I know that many of you are suffering. I know that many of you are having damage done to you. But there are many people living in fear from both sides of the aisle. They're just not letting you know yet. And they don't know and do not have the words in which to express that. Okay, time for Matilda's upcoming predictions. Now, I'm actually going to go a little bit further out than that because I get asked a lot about AOC, and I would love to say her name in full, but I can never pronounce it, and I don't mean to be disrespectful. But AOC, people are saying, she's for president, she's for president. She's going to be Speaker of the House. I'm not talking about now. I'm not talking about this minute. I see her as a future Speaker of the House. That is what I have been shown. I feel like the next 6 months are going to be very eye-opening. I have to go on to TikTok a bit later today because I made a video. I think it was the last video or one of the last videos I made where I talked about in the next 6 weeks, we are going to see JD Vance become more visible as they start to phase out Trump. That doesn't mean to say that it's all going to change in 6 weeks. People have got to stop buying into that instant gratification. I said in the next 6 weeks, towards the end of October, which would be the timing, I see JD Vance becoming more visible. And there's a purpose behind that. So the predictions that I have been shown coming up, there is going to be a withdrawal from Chicago within about 10 days. It's going to be an embarrassing withdrawal. Something's going to happen and ICE are going to be pulled out of there. If you are in the Chicago area and are at risk, please stay in. Please reach out to your neighbors if you need things. Please look for the helpers, the adult helpers, the grown-up helpers, those that you trust, because it is going to get worse before it gets better. I am really sorry to tell you this, but it's going to be chaos. But in about 10 days, it's suddenly going to stop. The government in the United States are going to be held accountable for this shutdown. There is going to be, I feel like it's going to go on for 3 weeks, if not a little bit longer. Mike Johnson is going to lose his job. Speaker of the House is going to have a mass embarrassment that's going to cost him his job because he's not doing his job properly. We're going to see or hear, I think we're going to see Trump fall over, fall over, have an episode, and that's going to be visible. And the what's his name? The Secretary of War. What a dickhead. I don't often use the word cunt. Oh, yes, I do. I know if you're a Patreon, you know that. But he is. He's on his way out. I think this was his last cry, trying to get these generals together. He's going to be hung out to dry. Peace deal that's going on between Israel and Gaza isn't going to last. Someone's going to slip up. I think there's going to be another bombing in Iran before mid-November. Starmer in the UK, still see him going. I just want to reiterate that. If you are in Australia, I have been shown early bushfires and late bushfires. Country Victoria, Western Australia, Tasmania for some reason, which I know Tasmania does have fires, but it feels like you're going to get hit hard this year. So please be aware of that. Volcanic activity, Philippines, Southeast Asia, and a problem in Bangkok, where Bangkok hits the news regarding, it feels earthquakey weather. I'm going to say unusual weather. That is about it from me this week. I hope that this week's episode has been helpful. I hope it has been eye-opening. Let me know where you're listening from, what you're doing. Do you take me on a walk? Where do we go for a walk? What do we do together? Being stuck at home with tradesmen coming and going. I am always excited to hear where I am going for a walk and where I'm visiting. It will be great to know that. But please share this episode if anyone is feeling heavy about the world. And you can find more information about my community, my teachings, my workshops over at mediummatilda.com or through my Patreon. As always, it has been a pleasure. Please take care of yourselves. If you do nothing else this week, find one thing that you can find joy from. One thing. Whether it's sitting outside with a cup of coffee, whether it is you are entering that fall weather and you're able to get your favorite sweater weather, your favorite sweater out, whether you get to have a pumpkin spiced latte, which I'm going to say I've never had. Sorry, never had one of those. We don't have them here. But whatever it is, find some joy, because the world can be heavy and difficult and feel as if it is pulling us under. But you are the light. Be that person you know you can be. Take care.